Thank you for listening to Stories at Stellar Novels. Hope you have a pleasant time listening to stories. If you want to play with fire, I, Empress Eleanor Shen, will make a green tea, like you turn pale with fear. This empress specializes in handling every kind of joke. Born into a general's family, what I detest most is empty words and false righteousness. Yet the newly favored Noble Lady Isabelle Lan is the one His Majesty dotes on the most, and the one who loves putting on performances the most. During the palace banquet, an assassin appeared. I only suffered a light slash that tore my sleeve. The wound itself was superficial. Yet Noble Lady Isabelle immediately burst into tears like rain falling on pear blossoms, rushed over, and clung to my feet, sobbing so movingly that it seemed to touch heaven and earth. Your Majesty, you are the mother of the realm. Your dragon body is priceless. If possible, this concubine is willing to take the blow in your stead and endure this pain for you. As long as your Majesty remains safe, this concubine would gladly be chopped into 1,000 pieces. The emperor was so moved that the rims of his eyes turned red. He kept praising her for being full of loyalty and righteousness, a model for the entire harem, and even wanted to promote her position. I lowered my head and looked at that face full of schemes, then slowly drew the sword from the guard's waist. My dear sister is so sincerely willing. This empress is deeply touched. Since you volunteered to take the punishment for me, do not merely speak empty words. I handed her the sword. Under the candlelight, the blade gleamed with a cold, chilling light. Just now the assassin slashed my arm, 3 inches long, half an inch deep. Come do it yourself. If you dare not, that is the crime of deceiving the monarch. The grand hall fell deathly silent. Isabelle knelt on the ground. The hand that had been clutching my skirt jerked back as if burned. She stared fixedly at the cold blade, tears hung on her lashes, neither falling nor staying, her whole body rigid like dried meat left to dry in the wind. Your Majesty, she stammered, her eyes darting desperately toward Emperor Julian Xiao. Julian was clearly stunned too. He had probably never seen anything like this before. In the harem, people usually only competed to show loyalty with pretty words for amusement. Who would have thought this empress would take it as a real imperial decree? The emperor cleared his throat, trying to smooth things over. Noble Lady Isabelle is also kind-hearted. She was merely anxious and exaggerated her words. Let us set aside this matter of blades and swords. The moment the emperor spoke, Isabelle immediately seized the lifeline. Her body went limp and she collapsed toward Julian's embrace. Your Majesty, this concubine was only worried for a moment and could not bear to see Her Majesty injured. I did not move. I simply flicked my wrist lightly and drove the sword into the golden brick, right in front of Isabelle. The blade sank 3 inches deep, still vibrating with a low hum. Isabelle screamed in terror. The body that had been falling toward the emperor froze instantly and curled into a ball. I adjusted the bloodstain on my sleeve, my expression calm as I looked at Julian. Your Majesty, in the army there are no jokes, and in the harem even less so. Just now Noble Lady Isabelle spoke clearly. She was willing to take the blow in my stead, and would gladly be chopped into 1,000 pieces. If those were lies, it is the crime of deceiving the monarch, and she must be executed by beheading according to the law. If she was sincere, then this empress is merely fulfilling her loyal heart. Why would Your Majesty stop me? Could it be that Your Majesty hopes the harem is full of people who speak of benevolence while hiding daggers in their hearts? Julian was rendered speechless by my words. He cared greatly about face, and having just ascended the throne, he feared most being called a muddle-headed ruler who could not distinguish right from wrong. If he admitted Isabelle was only joking, he would be tolerating a concubine deceiving the monarch. If he admitted she was sincere, she would have to take that blade. I turned to Isabelle and spoke each word with ringing clarity. My dear sister, the sword is here. Will you cut yourself, or shall this empress order the guards to help you? If you do it yourself, this empress will petition Your Majesty to promote you to the rank of consort to honor your loyal heart. If you dare not, my eyes turned icy. Then you were merely seizing the moment when this empress was injured to curry favor with His Majesty, while secretly cursing the mother of the realm to be chopped into 1,000 pieces. Guards, drag her down and tear out her tongue. Isabelle was truly panicked. Looking at my emotionless face, she finally understood that I was not playing the usual harem games with her. Trembling, she reached out and grasped the sword. Her hand shook like a winch in a winter gale. Is this concubine? She gritted her teeth, closed her eyes, and made a shallow cut on her own arm. She probably only intended a light scratch for show, but I am extremely meticulous. Wait, I stopped her. This empress made it clear, 3 inches long, half an inch deep. The imperial physician is waiting. If the wound is not the correct size, it proves insincerity and must be done again. Isabelle's face instantly turned white as paper. Under the eyes of dozens of people and faced with the choice of execution or real pain, she finally burst into loud sobs and ruthlessly slashed her own arm, Fresh blood immediately soaked her newly tailored brocade palace robe. A miserable scream echoed throughout the grand hall. I nodded in satisfaction. The imperial physician stepped forward to measure the wound. The physician trembled as he looked, then raised his head and reported, "Your Majesty, it is slightly too deep. The bone is visible." I sighed with deep emotion and turned to Julian. "Your Majesty, see. Attendant Isabelle truly has the great Zhou dynasty in her heart and respects this empress immensely. She struck so ruthlessly that this empress was deeply moved. In that case, promote Noble Lady Isabelle to the rank of consort. After all, this empress is not one who fails to keep her word." Julian looked at his beloved favorite rolling on the ground, his face as black as the bottom of a pot, but he could only grit his teeth and say, "What the empress says is right." Thanks to that single slash, Isabelle successfully rose to the rank of consort, yet she also had to lie bedridden in her palace for half a month. However, a promotion gained in such a way was clearly not something ordinary people could endure. During that half-month, the atmosphere in the harem changed completely. The concubines who used to open their mouths with, "This concubine is willing to offer her liver and brain for your Majesty," or, "This concubine is willing to climb mountains of blades and plunge into seas of fire for her Majesty," now spoke as cautiously as if they were writing official criminal records, wishing Her Majesty good health and longevity. Not one extra word dared to be spoken, for fear that this empress would reply, "Since you volunteered to climb a mountain of blades for me, please step into the imperial kitchen and demonstrate by walking barefoot on burning coals." After half a month, when Isabelle had recovered from her injury and returned, she had learned her lesson. She no longer dared to show open loyalty. Instead, she switched to the frugal path and tried to attack me with morality. That day, when all the concubines came to Cunning Palace to pay respects, I was sitting on the high platform sipping the newly tribute Longjing tea, wearing the phoenix-embroidered brocade robe just presented by the Southern Weaving Bureau. Isabelle wore a plain coarse, cloth dress of muted color, with only a single wooden hairpin in her hair. Among the brightly dressed concubines, she looked completely out of place, strikingly so. The moment she entered, she did not perform a full greeting. She merely bowed slightly, looked at the teacup in my hand and sighed. "Your Majesty's tea is said to be a tribute worth 1,000 gold per ounce, is it not? Now the Jiangnan region is flooded, the common people are scattered, and His Majesty is so worried about disaster relief that he cannot eat or sleep." The corners of her eyes reddened, her face was full of compassion. "Though this concubine's rank is low, I also know how to share the monarch's burdens. Seeing your Majesty living so extravagantly pains this concubine's heart. If it could bring warmth and full stomachs to the people, this concubine would willingly wear coarse cloth for life, eat coarse, grain porridge, and live in a thatched hut to pray for His Majesty's blessings. I would never cling to the glory and wealth of this palace." A truly clever retreat, too advanced tactic. She was subtly saying that this empress was too extravagant, did not understand the monarch's worries, and did not care about the lives of the common people. Under normal circumstances, as empress I should have felt ashamed, rewarded her, or reduced my own expenses to appease public opinion. Instead, I set the teacup down with a crisp porcelain clink. "Ere your words sincere, consort Isabelle." Isabelle straightened her back, her face full of righteousness. "Every word this concubine spoke comes from the bottom of her heart. As long as I can share His Majesty's burdens, I am willing to endure any hardship." I nodded, took out an account book from my sleeve, and opened it. Just in time. "This empress has been troubled. The Imperial Household Bureau has reported that to raise funds for disaster relief, we must cut palace repair expenses and send some palace maids home. Since consort Isabelle has the heart of a bodhisattva, and is willing not only to wear coarse cloth, but also to live in a thatched hut and eat coarse, grain porridge, you can help this empress solve a difficult problem." I turned to the chief palace attendant beside me and issued my decree. "Consort Isabelle understands great righteousness and has voluntarily given up her consort privileges. Move her to the abandoned woodshed in the western corner of the palace. No, to the thatched hut as she wishes. From today onward, stop issuing her monthly stipend. Confiscate all her jewelry, hairpins, and formal robes. As for meals, follow the standard for commoners in the cold palace. 2 corn cakes and 1 plate of salted vegetables per day." Since she said she would eat coarse, grain porridge, giving her white rice would insult her noble character. The compassionate expression on Isabelle's face instantly froze and turned to horror. "Your Majesty, this concubine did not mean that. This concubine was only giving an example." I put on a stern face and cut her off. "An example. When a national disaster is raging and the people are suffering, you use their suffering as an example. Are you mocking the nation's calamity? This empress is merely helping you fulfill your great virtue. The coarse, cloth dress you are wearing is perfect. There is no need to change. You may go now." I waved my hand. Two sturdy senior matrons immediately stepped forward and dragged Isabelle away on either side. Isabelle struggled wildly, her hairpin scattering. I want to see His Majesty. I am Consort Isabelle, personally appointed by His Majesty. You cannot treat me this way. I laughed coldly and said, if His Majesty learns that you voluntarily chose to live in a thatched hut to share his worries, he will certainly be moved to tears. Rest assured, this Empress will report your kind intention in full. Oh, I almost forgot. I added as she was dragged to the door. Since you wish to pray for blessings, the ceremony must be complete. If the thatched roof leaks, repair it yourself. Never trouble the Imperial Household Bureau, lest you waste the nation's treasury. My dear sister, have a safe journey. Isabelle lived in that leaky, dilapidated hut for 3 days. It is said that Julian visited her once during those 3 days, but the moment he reached the door he was driven away by the foul stench inside. Men may claim to like simplicity, yet when they actually face a woman with disheveled hair eating corn cakes to survive, they flee faster than anyone. When Julian returned, he said to me somewhat awkwardly, Attendant Isabelle really went too far. At the time I was reviewing accounts and comparing the Imperial Household Bureau's expenditures. I did not even bother to look up. Didn't Your Majesty greatly admire her purity? This Empress merely helped her reveal her true nature. Isabelle was the kind of person who could bow and rise again. Seeing that the pity act had failed, she sold what little assets she had left, bribed the eunuchs, and sent Julian a blood-written letter. She did not ask to restore her privileges. She only said she missed His Majesty and wanted to personally embroider a 10,000-mile landscape to celebrate his birthday. She begged only to return to his side, even if merely as an embroidery maid. Julian softened, and with the Empress Dowager's words of support, he allowed her to return to her former palace, though her rank was lowered to attendant. This time when Isabelle came back, she seemed like a completely different person. She no longer confronted me. Instead, she came to my palace every day to learn the rules, pouring tea, offering water, massaging my back and shoulders, calling me sister, more intimately than blood relatives. Sister. In the past, this younger sister was ignorant. Isabelle knelt at my feet, massaging my legs while looking up with a small face full of reverence. This younger sister has thought it through. In this harem, only sister is truly sincere. From now on I will treat you as my own blood sister. If sister tells me to go east, I will never dare go west. Sister manages the 6 palaces with such hardship, this younger sister's heart aches just watching. I only wish to share a portion of the burden, even the smallest task. As long as it can lighten sister's load even a little, I will be perfectly content. Her words were clear. She intended to take the deep sisterly bond route and use the excuse of helping me to secretly divide my power. I put down my red brush and looked at her. Since we are sisters, we share blessings and endure hardships together. Isabelle's eyes lit up. Exactly, sister. This younger sister is willing to do anything for you. Very well. I pointed at the pile of ledgers stacked high on the table. Recently, the situation on the northwest frontier has been tense. Grain distribution is complicated, and this year we must also renovate the Imperial Mausoleum. All these purchase lists give this Empress a headache. Since you wish to share the burden, these 3 ledgers are yours. I patted the thick stack of papers. They contain tax calculations for 36 prefectures, plus the spoilage and mold rates of military grain. Every item must be checked, not a single coin may be wrong. Before the hour of Z tonight, this Empress wants to see the audit results. The smile on Isabelle's face froze solid. She was indeed a talented woman, but only in poetry and conversation. Checking accounts was the work of the accounting office. Sister, so many volumes. How can this younger sister finish before Z hour? Besides, this is against the rules. My face turned cold. What? A moment ago you said you were willing to do anything for me, yet now that the chance has come you hesitate. So the so-called sister was also just a joke. No, it was not a joke. Isabelle panicked and waved her hands frantically. If it was not a joke, then begin. I stood up and stretched. This Empress happens to be tired. I shall take a nap. My dear sister, take your time. You may not eat until you finish, and you may not leave. Oh, I almost forgot. At the door I turned back to look at her. This matter concerns vital military and state affairs. If even one item is miscalculated and causes problems with frontline supplies, it will be the crime of exterminating 9 generations of your clan. My dear sister, keep your hands steady. That night the lights in Cunning Palace burned brightly. Isabelle clicked the abacus while crying. Her 10 fingers were swollen, her eyes red as a rabbit's. I also stationed 4 expert calculation matrons to supervise her. Whenever she stopped, the matrons gently reminded her, Her Majesty has spoken. Sisters must clearly settle the accounts. You cannot be lazy. At the hour of Z, Isabelle was carried out. It is said that when she returned to her palace she had nightmares for 3 straight days. In her dreams abacus beads chased her across mountains. After several rounds of fighting, Isabelle finally became genuinely afraid of me. Yet she was the type who remembers a beating only while it hurts, and her heart was narrow. Seeing that the mid-autumn banquet was approaching, she believed it was her last chance to turn the tables. If she could shine at the banquet, she would regain favor and continue fighting me. On the night of the banquet, fine wine filled the tables. Isabelle presented the startled swan dance that was truly beautiful. Julian watched without blinking. After the dance, Isabelle calmly carried a wine cup toward me. Empress, in the past this concubine was ignorant and angered your majesty. She knelt before me, raised the cup, and spoke with deep emotion. Today is the mid-autumn festival of reunion. This concubine rose early every day to gather dew from flower petals, and personally brewed a jar of wine to offer your majesty and apologize. If your majesty refuses to drink, it means you have not forgiven this concubine. This concubine can only apologize with death. All eyes turned to me. This trick was too old, merely using words to force me. If I did not drink, I would be forcing her to die, and would certainly be mocked by the officials as petty and unworthy of being the mother of the realm. If I drank, it would mean I had forgiven her, and from then on I would have to play the role of harmonious sisters with her. Utterly disgusting. Whether I drank or not, it was a trap. Yet I looked at the wine cup in her hand and smiled. My dear sister speaks too gravely. I will not take the cup. I looked at her. You said that if I do not drink, you will apologize with death. Isabelle nodded firmly. Yes, if your majesty does not drink, this concubine will dash her head against the pillar in this hall and die. She was certain I would not dare refuse in front of all the civil and military officials, in order to protect my reputation for benevolence. I turned to look at Julian, then at the ministers below. Have all my lords heard clearly? Attendant Isabelle has admitted her guilt and, with strong resolve, is willing to die in apology. If this empress does not fulfill her wish, would that not be too petty? I stood up, straightened my robes, and declared loudly, "Wards." Several sword-bearing imperial guards rushed into the hall. Isabelle's scripted scene was not unfolding as she had planned. I pointed at her, my voice icy. Attendant Isabelle has decided to beg for death. Dashing her head against a pillar would be too painful. If she fails to die and becomes crippled instead, she would become a burden to the imperial family. This empress pities my dear sister and specially grants her a clean death. Transmit my decree. Bestow upon attendant Isabelle 1 white silk cord and 1 cup of poisoned wine. Right here in the grand hall, before His Majesty and all the ministers, we shall fulfill her heart's desire. Since you wish to die, die with dignity. Do not play fake games with this empress. The wine cup in Isabelle's hand fell to the floor with a clang. You dare, she screamed. Your Majesty. The empress has gone mad. She wants to kill me. I looked at her coldly. Did you not say that if I did not drink you would die in apology? Now I am not drinking, so please die. What is wrong with that? Guards, proceed. The guards carrying the white silk stepped closer. At this moment Julian could no longer sit still. He slammed the table and stood up. Empress, today is the mid-autumn festival. How can blood be spilled in the grand hall? I turned to face Julian without the slightest fear. Your Majesty, precisely because today is the mid-autumn festival, the harem must be cleansed all the more to set an example for the realm. This woman has repeatedly used her life to threaten others, treating imperial authority as a game and human life as grass. Today she dares to force this empress to drink with the threat of death. Tomorrow she will dare to force your Majesty to depose the empress with the threat of death. What use is there in keeping such a demon concubine, who demands life or death at every turn? I stepped closer to Isabelle and lowered my voice, so only the two of us could hear. Remember, in front of this empress there are no jokes and no threats. If you want to die, this empress will bury you. Now choose, white silk or poisoned wine. Isabelle looked at the murderous aura surrounding me and finally understood that no one could save her this time. Her whole body shook violently. Suddenly her eyes rolled back, foam appeared at her mouth, and she collapsed to the floor convulsing. Little mistress has been poisoned. Someone must have poisoned little mistress. Her palace maid screamed. I watched Isabelle's extremely realistic performance on the ground, and the corner of my mouth lifted in a cold smile. Pretending to be dead. Excellent. That makes it even simpler. I raised my head and ordered the imperial physician loudly. How utterly bold, to dare poison someone right at the imperial banquet. Attendant Isabelle cannot die yet. Guards, quickly bring the imperial golden urine from the chamber pot. It is the most effective antidote. Pour it until she wakes. When the eunuch carried over the entire bucket of yellowish liquid, the grand hall was instantly filled with an indescribable stench. The woman who had just been convulsing with rolled back eyes suddenly opened them wide the moment the spoonful of medicine approached. She sprang up like a carp, leaping the dragon gate, even rolling backward twice to avoid the divine spoonful. She retched dryly several times, her face deathly pale as she looked at me. I'm awake. This concubine is awake. No need to pour any more. The entire hall fell silent, then broke into whispers. Julian's expression was as ugly as if he had swallowed 3 flies alive. The woman he doted on most had just claimed she was poisoned and about to die, yet she recovered the moment she smelled urine. If this story spread, where would the imperial family's dignity be? I sat high above and even clapped lightly a few times. Marvelous. It seems the old imperial physicians should all retire to their hometowns. Neither 1,000-year ginseng nor heavenly snow lotus can compare to 1 spoonful of this Empress's golden fluid. Attendant Isabelle, since you have been cured, please explain to His Majesty. My gaze suddenly turned sharp. Just now you acted as if you were severely poisoned. Your palace maid even shouted that you had been poisoned. Yet now you are as healthy as a dragon or tiger. This Empress wishes to ask exactly what kind of poison you were afflicted with. Isabelle's whole body trembled. She knew she had committed the great crime of deceiving the monarch. Her eyes darted rapidly. Suddenly she dropped to her knees at Julian's feet, tears and snot streaming. Your Majesty, this concubine was momentarily foolish and only joking with Her Majesty. This concubine only wanted to test whether, at the moment of life and death, Your Majesty and Her Majesty truly cared about this concubine. This concubine did it only because I love Your Majesty too much and feared losing you. That is why I used this foolish method to test your hearts. This, testing love, trick of hers had never failed before. Julian's face did not look good, yet when he heard the 3 words, "Love Your Majesty too much," his expression softened slightly. Too much? How could you use something like this to test us? Julian scolded, but his tone was clearly gentler, considering it was her first offense and came from genuine feeling. Wait. I cut off the pardon that was about to leave Julian's lips. I stood up and looked down at Isabelle from above. Attendant Isabelle, have you ever read the Great Zhou Legal Code? I turned to the Minister of Justice, Minister Theodore Li. Please tell Attendant Isabelle what the law says about probing the movements of the Son of Heaven and testing the Emperor's heart. Minister Li stepped forward trembling and wiped the sweat from his forehead. Your Majesty, according to the law, it should be punished by execution. Isabelle froze. I laughed coldly. You said you wanted to test whether His Majesty cared about you. Now let us see the result together. Just now, to save you, His Majesty slammed the table in fury and shouted at this Empress, proving that His Majesty truly cares about you. Your goal has been achieved. My tone changed, my eyes turned icy. Your little test of love is over. Now it is this Empress's turn to settle accounts. You treated His Majesty's affection as a joke and the court's discipline as trash. If every woman in the harem learns from you, today pretending to be poisoned to test love, tomorrow pretending to be an assassin to test love, what order would remain in this imperial palace? Since you enjoy testing life and death so much, this Empress will fulfill your wish. I pointed outside the hall and transmitted my decree. Attendant Isabelle has grown arrogant, relying on favor, and dared to deceive the monarch. Although the death penalty is waived, the living punishment is hard to pardon. Since you enjoy toying with the boundary between life and death, send her to the imperial hunting grounds as live bait. Let us see whether the imperial guards arrive first or the hungry tigers and wolves. That will be real life and death. Isabelle was dragged away. Her miserable screams were even more horrific than the sound of pigs being slaughtered. Julian wanted to plead for mercy but was stopped by 1 sentence from me. If Your Majesty pleads for her, it means you are encouraging the harem to use this trick to fight for favor. Tomorrow this Empress will also jump into a well to test you. Isabelle spent 3 days in the hunting grounds. Her luck was fairly good. She did not meet tigers, only a few wild dogs that chased her all over the mountain. In the end, she was pulled down from a tree by patrolling guards. When she returned, she was skin and bones, her expression panicked, yet she still refused to give up. At just the right moment, her father, General Harlan, who was guarding the western border, submitted a memorial. In the memorial, the wording was roundabout and full of hints. He had fought for the Great Zhou all his life, yet his only daughter was being bullied inside the palace. If anything happened to his daughter, he would no longer have the heart to hold a sword. His grip would tremble. This was a veiled threat. If the court did not treat Isabelle well, the western border might not remain peaceful. Julian read the memorial and panic. That very night he brought Isabelle back to the palace, not only treating her injuries carefully, but also planning to restore her position. Empress. Julian came to me holding the memorial, his face full of helplessness. General Harlan holds military power after all. I cannot ignore his face. Isabelle has suffered enough this time. Can we let the matter drop? I took the memorial and read every line carefully, then gave the brightest smile I had shown in months. Let the matter drop? Of course not. Your Majesty, this is not a plea for mercy, it is clearly an urgent distress signal from the front line. Julian was stunned. A distress signal. What distress? I pointed at the line. My hand can no longer grip the sword firmly, and analyzed gravely. For a veteran general who has experienced countless battles, the sword is his life. Now he says his hand is unsteady. What does that mean? It means he is either gravely ill or old and frail, no longer strong enough to command. Either way, it is a major military hazard. If the enemy takes advantage and invades while the commander cannot even hold his sword, will the western border of our great Zhou not fall into enemy hands? I snapped the memorial shut with a clap, my expression grave. Your Majesty, General Harlan is using this gentle way to request retirement and asking the court to send someone to take over military command. For the sake of the great Zhou's altars, he does not hesitate to expose his own weakness. What a loyal and patriotic heart, truly moving. Julian's mouth hung open. He could not keep up with my train of thought. No, that is not right. I feel he is threatening me. Your Majesty. I raised my voice and cut him off. How can you think so badly of such an old general? He is a meritorious minister of the great Zhou. How could he use the border as a condition to threaten your Majesty? That would be the crime of rebellion. Extermination of 9 generations. Does your Majesty truly suspect the Lan family of disloyalty? Julian was backed into a corner. If he admitted the Lan family was disloyal, he would be forcing them to rebel. If he admitted they were loyal, he had to follow my logic. He choked for a long time, then finally gritted his teeth and said, the Lan family is of course loyal. Very well. I slapped the table. Since they are loyal, then when he says he cannot grip the sword, it truly means he cannot grip it. Guards, draft the imperial edict. I gave Julian no time to react. General Harlan is advanced in years and his strength is failing. He knows he can no longer fulfill his duties, and has specially submitted a memorial requesting retirement. His Majesty, grateful for his loyal heart, approves his retirement to the capital to enjoy his old age. He is granted 1,000 taels of gold and 100 mu of fertile land. At the same time, I ordered my elder brother, General Marcus Shen, the Flying Cavalry Grand General, to immediately take over the western border military seal, reorganize border defenses, and stabilize the troops. Dispatch the edict by 800 Li urgent post. The edict was issued at once. At that moment Isabelle was lying on her soft couch in her palace, dreaming sweetly of regaining favor. She thought her father's threat had worked. It was not until half a month later, when news arrived that her father had been escorted back to the capital, and all military power had been taken over by my brother, that she was completely stunned. She rushed madly to Cunning Palace and pointed at my nose, cursing loudly. Eleanor, you vicious woman. You deliberately twisted my father's meaning. You stole military power. I will report you to His Majesty. I will expose you. At the time I was sitting in the courtyard pruning a pot of gentleman orchids. Hearing her curses, I did not even bother to look up. Twisted? I merely acted according to General Harlan's own words. He said his hand could no longer grip the sword firmly, so this Empress let him lay down the sword and rest. What is wrong with that? And what about you? I finally set the shears down and looked up at her. Just now you directly called this Empress by name and cursed me as a vicious woman. That is insubordination and great disrespect. By now Isabelle had gone mad. She had lost her family's backing and knew she had no way out, so she decided to shatter everything. Great disrespect. So what? If you have the ability, kill me. My father no longer has military power. What do I have left to fear? Let me tell you, even if I become a ghost, I will never let you go. In the next life I will chop you into 10,000 pieces and make you taste everything I have suffered. Her hair was disheveled, her eyes filled with poisonous hatred, like an evil spirit crawling up from hell. Very well. I nodded, my voice still calm. Since you are so determined, this Empress has always liked helping people fulfill their wishes. I stood up, walked in front of her, and looked at that twisted face. You said you want to become a ghost to take revenge on me. Then this Empress will give you that chance. I called the captain of the Imperial Guards. Attendant Isabelle has just cursed this Empress, and loudly declared she wants to become a vengeful ghost. To fulfill her oath and also to prove to the world whether ghosts truly exist, grant her the punishment of skinning and stuffing with straw. The moment the words left my mouth, all the palace maids and eunuchs around us dropped to their knees in terror. The punishment of skinning and stuffing with straw was the harshest penalty used by the founding emperor to punish corrupt officials. Peel off the person's skin, stuff the body with dry straw, and display the human figure as a warning. Isabelle understood. The poisonous hatred in her eyes instantly turned into utter terror. You cannot. I am His Majesty's consort. I corrected her coldly. You are now merely a commoner. Moreover, you yourself said you wanted to become a ghost. This Empress is merely helping you skip the troublesome steps of birth, aging, sickness, and death so you can fulfill your wish sooner. Oh, that is right. After she is made into a human figure, place it directly in front of the gate of Cunning Palace. I smiled faintly, but the smile did not reach my eyes. This Empress also wants to see what you can do to me after you become a ghost. As Isabelle was dragged away, she no longer even had the strength to beg, only despairing sobs remained. This time Julian did not come, because after the Lan family's fall, my brother and I had uncovered ironclad evidence that the Lan family had embezzled military grain and colluded with foreign enemies for many years. The entire Lan clan was exterminated. At that time Julian was busy on the court, harshly denouncing the Lan family for ingratitude and betrayal. He had no mind left to think about an old general whose hand trembled so much he could not hold a sword, nor about that general's daughter inside the harem. In the end, Isabelle was not skinned and stuffed, not because I softened, but because Julian felt it was too ominous and feared it would haunt him, so he changed the sentence to poisoned wine. Before Isabelle died, I had someone recount in full detail the entire process of the Lan family's confiscation, her father's beheading, every single thing, clearly and drop by drop. She died in extreme remorse and terror. Until her last breath, she still did not understand why she had merely spoken a few nice words and played a few small tricks. Yet in the end her entire family was destroyed and she died with a ruined reputation. After Isabelle's death, the harem became completely quiet. No one dared to say in front of me anymore, "This concubine is willing to expose her liver and spill her blood for your majesty." Or, "This concubine is willing to die for his majesty without regret." Every concubine who met me was obedient and cautious in word and deed. This concubine ate 1 bowl of porridge and 2 steamed buns this morning. My body is normal, nothing unusual. Very good. Julian also changed. He began to rule diligently and cherish the people. He no longer dared to indulge in women, because he knew that if on the throne he dared say something like, "My heart aches as if cut. I wish I could suffer in the people's stead." Then his Empress would truly bring coarse grain porridge and wild vegetables to the imperial table and make him taste the flavor of suffering for the people. 1 year later, at the family banquet on the night of the mid-autumn festival, Julian drank a little wine while gazing at the bright moon overhead and could not help sighing. "If I can protect this realm forever, I am willing to reduce my lifespan by 10 years. The moment the words left his mouth, he felt a chill run down his spine. He turned around in fright and saw me holding a small notebook, staring at him attentively. Reduce lifespan by 10 years. I lifted my brush. Is that true? Then this Empress will immediately invite the imperial astronomer to calculate your majesty's remaining lifespan and perform a ritual to subtract those 10 years as an offering to heaven for blessings." Julian jumped in alarm. Half his wine sobered instantly and he nearly dropped his cup. No, I was joking. I spoke nonsense." He waved his hands frantically, face full of panic. "Empress, what I meant was that I will work hard to govern the country and live a few more years to protect Great Joe." I looked at his trembling appearance, gently closed the notebook, and the corners of my mouth lifted in a faint, knowing smile. "Since these are your majesty's words, this Empress will remember them. Your majesty must do what you say, because in front of this Empress, there are no jokes." That concludes today's story on Stellar Novels. We hope you enjoyed it. Please give us a like, leave your thoughts in the comments, and subscribe to stay updated with new stories. See you next time.